how is marketing different from B2B marketing? Well, it's the difference between marketing to companies as compared to individual customers. While persuasion and customer needs drive demand, collective decision making and buying for the enterprise involves different dynamics. We have today a veteran in B2B marketing. Prakash Ramnath has done pretty much everything, worked in advertising agencies as well as tech companies in different domains. He graduated in commerce and did his post graduation in management, specializing in marketing. He has over 20 years' experience across sales, product management, global marketing, and partnerships. So he's worked with companies like Sify, with Ramco, and he's now with Pando, which is into IT in logistics. And he's worn multiple hats within marketing across the spectrum: brand marketing, product marketing, demand generation. So it'll be interesting to see how his career has changed over time. And he's been there at a point when the net just started off to the point where it's graduated to us taking social media and broadband for granted. This is my first job, the podcast. My name is Venugopal, and we have interesting career journeys with people who have navigated multiple career streams each time. And I've noticed that every single career stream is about twists, turns, and insights. And I'm sure today's conversation is going to be just as interesting and episodic. And so let me bring Prakash on stage and introduce him, and let's get talking. Prakash, thank you very much and welcome aboard.
Hey, thank you so much for having me here, Venu. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and really appreciate this initiative. I really wish I had a platform like this early on when I started off. But this is an amazing initiative, and happy to be part of this.
Wonderful, because the thing that I have noticed in talking to over 100 guests, this is episode 109, is that even if people are in the same profession, there can be quite a bit of difference in how they approach it, what happened. So you started, where is your early schooling and work been, in Chennai or in different other cities as well?
Interesting. I was actually born in Patna. So technically, I'm a Bihari by birth. Very early days, but did my schooling in Trichy, and then mostly in Coimbatore is where I did my later part of my schooling, and my graduation was from PSG. So that's how my journey was, and it's been interesting. Like you said, journeys are different, and if you can sort of sum up a person as a mathematical equation, we are all sum total of all our experiences we have had so far. So obviously, everyone's journey is sort of different, and happy to share whatever would be interesting from that.
So, what was school and college like? Were you outgoing? Did you take part in a lot of extracurricular activities? Did you have some sense of what you wanted to do?
Actually, it was very different, both in terms of, let's say, the school and my college experience. School was more about, hey, very academically led. And we all grew up with the mindset that, academic success is career success. And, we were all sort of chasing marks, etc., etc. So, unfortunately, yeah, on and off in school, yes, could be an art competition, could be debate competition. Is those are the ones. Not much into sports at then. I tried my hand at cricket, badminton, even basketball. I had a fracture, and I said I'm not going to go back to basketball again. So school was fun that way. I think in college is where we all had an opportunity to take a step back and say, hey, there is life beyond academics, right? And some way, I think one of the professors I want to sort of remember in my college is a professor by name Rangarajan. And he said, "Hey, all this is fine, but you guys need to sort of shape your own identity, and therefore figure out what drives you, what you're interested in." And he sort of was one of the inspiration for us to try a lot of things outside academics. So college is where, like you said, we did a lot of intercollegiates. I started playing badminton and table tennis. The passion to sort of get into sports was sort of triggered, and of course the passion for advertising and marketing sort of curated around that time. School days, it's always been I've always been inspired by ads. It's funny, we actually have very little attention spans today, and we are doing long form storytelling. But those days we had unlimited attention time span, and we used to have whatever 30-second ads, right? And I used to wonder how special those guys are in sort of creating a story within 30 seconds. But I think ads sort of was the first trigger for me to get interested in creative storytelling. But that's how it's been.
Okay. So do you remember something from your advertising days? That was your first job? Was that the first job you got
Yeah,
into?
sort of, you can say that. It was a summer internship, and it's just two of us, me and my friend Rajat from college. We said, "Hey, everybody were doing different kinds of projects," and we said we're going to go for advertising. And I still remember one of our profs doing advertising. Yeah, we want to do advertising. So okay, whatever you guys like.
Okay.
So we had to actually scout for advertising agencies who are willing to take summer internships. So you know we didn't have advertising agencies coming into campus, so we
And you
finally
had to
found
go
someone.
looking. Yeah.
Yeah, so I still remember going on a bike from one agency to another, and we used to have those yellow pages, if you remember those days.
Right.
That was the Google search. This is pre-internet era. But it
Right.
was interesting. We found an ad agency, and that's when we realized, hey, beyond the 30 seconds, there's a lot of heavy lift that happens, uh, getting us exposed into what is client servicing, what is media planning, what is account management, so on and so forth. While
Where was
creative,
this? Was it in Chennai or was it in Coimbatore?
it was in Coimbatore, an agency by name Sasi Advertising at that point in
Sasi,
time.
I think, has been one of the stalwarts, been very early on. It started off in,
Of course.
right. Okay. Okay.
So Sasi is where, let's say, the seeds of advertising and marketing germinated, and that sort of led to, hey, is then the realization dawns on you that advertising is just one part of a bigger daddy called marketing, right? And then it
Yeah.
sort of fueled all of us into explore the next phase of the storytelling.
Okay. So from Shashi, what happened? You graduated in commerce, you said, and then uh,
I graduated in
what?
commerce. We had the first BPO wave coming in India at that point in time. So we had GE or General Electric coming into a campus. They picked a couple of us. That was essentially my first job. To sort of relate to this, it was very interesting because we were sort of servicing clients in US from here. We were part of an insurance and a retail practice. But over a period of 6 7 months, I realized, hey, this is not scalable. While it's nice to get some sort of work experience, my heart lied in learning more about marketing and how I can sort of structure my career journey on that. So after working for a year, I took a break. I did my post graduation and then started my career later on.
Okay, but what was that job about? It was basically about, was it more customer support? Was it getting them to understand what it was all about?
So it was
Customers.
definitely about customer support. It's about US customers processing their insurance claims, US customers writing to us, calling us. It was also about night shifts. Now people are sort of used to it, and we were like, hey, how do you even do that? Essentially, in the long run, hey, I also realize it's going to be a toll on my health, etc. But the good part about that experience is, I think the first job gave us an exposure to how uh, a large organization like General Electric thinks about profession, structure, workflows across functions. I think that was great. Obviously, your ability to sort of converse directly with the US customers at that point in time was a significant exposure. I mean, you can talk to them, you can talk about what offerings that GE has, how can we help, so on and so forth. So that trained. And of course, they take care of helping you with your communication abilities, and that sort of gives you an edge as well, which was very helpful.
Okay. Now, from you finished your post graduation in management and specialized in marketing, which is essentially where you were headed. And
Yeah.
then what did you get into? Was Sify that immediate job that you got after passing out from doing your post graduation?
Absolutely, yeah. So Sify was sort of a campus placement, and that's the first job where we started. Interestingly, we all had, and most of us who did marketing in our batch, we're like, hey, we're going to be part of any organization, and we're going to get into brand management. We're going to do XYZ. We're going to run campaigns, so on and so forth. Sify was interesting because Sify was not the traditional, manufacturing or a retailer. We were into providing internet, so it was more like a, let's say, a retail services space. And internet was just booming, and we were all trying to figure out, hey, how do you market and sell a product that you cannot see? And so far, I think the collective uh, intellect around marketing was all around marketing product or selling product that you can see, touch, and feel, right? So that was an interesting journey, and I started in sales because I still remember the conversation that my reporting manager called me and said, "Hey, he was heading broadband business for India, and he said, if you want to go do really good in marketing, you need to understand what's happening on the ground, and it would really help you to sort of do sales for some time." I said, yes, let me try it. So I think my journey in marketing started with sales.
Yeah, and I remember that while I worked at Fountainhead, I think we handled the Dish and DSL account. And at that time, broadband was seen as 256 kbps.
It
So
was like amazing, right?
laughable,
Yeah.
yeah. And people were paying 25 and 30,000 a month for that. So at that point, the internet was just kind of sort of, I mean, broadband was really getting defined because to people today, you can't even think in terms of kbps.
We
It's
take it for
almost,
granted.
yeah,
Yeah,
you take it
right.
for
And
granted.
that time it used to be a luxury, so we felt we
Yeah,
are actually selling a luxury product because used to have something called dial-ups, very
right.
limited speeds. I don't know
Right.
if this generation knows something called modem, but I know we all grew up on that generation. But it was
Yeah.
interesting to sort of create a new category of internet and sort of drive the adoption. And I think the way it sort of unfolded after internet adoption was fascinating.
Okay. So, what is it like selling? Do you remember any of your sales calls and the kind of questions that people used to ask, and what were the kind of objections you had to handle?
Oh, crazy! And this was an era where you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have Spotify, right? Pretty much, it was early forms of email. I think even Gmail had just launched.
Yeah.
Right? It was predominantly Hotmail and a couple of other service providers. So I think it was very tough, frankly, and you have to really justify. Uh, we used to go actually door to door selling. My first couple of months was in Mumbai, so new city. I didn't know, and the go-to-market strategy was, hey, let's find huge flats. People who are living in large flats can afford a 500 rupee per month, 256 kbps connection was the premise, and I think it was not 500, it was actually 800 rupees if I remember initially when I said it. So we used to go there and we used to be like, hey, which of these houses has a AC unit outside, and how do you sort of ensure you sneak into the building or apartment when the security guy is asleep, right? And it used to be those kind of hardcore ground tactics in just getting an access to the customer.
Right.
Today you have multiple ways, but it was like on ground access. I think looking back also, Venu, I think what want to echo what my reporting manager said. I think that gave a very different perspective, and the sense of respect I had for sales teams and selling was very different. And objections range from basic stuff like, hey, how is it different from my internet? What am I going to do different? Just saying that you're going to have faster access was difficult, and sometimes we used to give them a pilot for a week, sort of a try and buy, which is the norm today. We even tried it in the internet era. So very very fascinating journey there.
Okay. So you stayed with Sify for quite a few years. How many years did you work with them?
Wow, that's now it feels like a long time because today's career journeys are very short-lived. What I see across, but yeah, it's about eight plus years with
No, but that
supply.
was a time of tumultuous change also, and I think Sify did a lot with not just broadband. They were also trying to see if they could launch e-commerce portals. They were looking at content generation. So
Yeah,
the early experiments, I think, that was a great learning ground because essentially all of these have become specific businesses by themselves now. But at that point, when Sify got started, you didn't have online payments were a pain. Everything was, I think, cash on delivery. People were not used to buying on the net. The way you had to manage e-commerce portals itself was so different from Amazon. Also, was just finding its feet.
absolutely.
So it's not as if and I think Sify it experimented very quickly and went global. But I think at some point, either because of infrastructural issues or something, it didn't become the force that people thought it would become. But obviously, anybody who worked in Sify at that point had a great foundation because I doubt
Absolutely.
if today people work at just one aspect of, let's say, e-commerce, demand generation alone, whereas you
Hello.
were looking at the foundation of so many businesses when you started off.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
post,
Essentially, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, please, I finished.
No, reflecting on that, I think we took a stab at every part of internet business.
Yes.
Broadly, it was consumer and enterprise. In the consumer side, we looked at content. We looked at like Sify.com and the websites that see, and as an alternative, it was called new media then because you had traditional media.
Right.
Uh, you had commerce. We had our own shopping website. We also had a travel booking. There was always the connectivity business with broadband to home. We also have a cyber cafe business. I don't know
Right.
if people can relate to a
Yeah,
cyber
I
cafe,
remember that was, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
On the enterprise side, it was enterprise connectivity, enterprise voice, a host of things that we take for granted, and it's mushroomed as a huge industry by itself or a product category by itself. We're all just business units within City. So I think it was a pioneer from that perspective. And I think the exposure to sort of try each of these businesses, and I had been fortunate both on the the selling side, the marketing side, also on the product management side, because we are also building these businesses. And how do you
Yeah.
build the technology behind these businesses was very instrumental in shaping my career as well.
Very true. Very true. So, you're listening to the My First Job podcast. I'm talking to a veteran of digital marketing and B2B marketing, Prakash Ramnath. And what we've covered so far is where the foundations of B2B marketing in his own career were laid. And it started from working in one of the earliest BPOs and then went on to Sify, which was instrumental in setting up so many new businesses, which are individual businesses today, but all of these were bunched together in one company, which is Sify. And Prakash obviously had a huge foundation when he worked for 8 years. In the next segment, we're going to concentrate on his entry into B2B marketing and how he sees B2B marketing as different from uh, regular traditional marketing and what are the differences, and his own experiences with customer engagement and figuring out how the business should grow. So, Prakash, what was the next stage? Where exactly did you see this go? You know, you
So it
went
was.
to, yeah.
So I think, like I said, my heart was always in marketing, and I found myself navigating through sales to product management in City. While we were selling solutions, it was a very small product management team, and they thought, hey, I used to come with a lot of ideas to the product management team. I think this, if you can do XYZ, it will make the selling process easier. If you do XYZ, we can make the customer success process easier, so on and so forth. And they said, hey, it's nice to give ideas from the other side. Why don't you join us and build it by yourself? So that's sort of made a nice career shift to product management. uh, I think I spent about 5, 6 plus years in product management, across businesses, across enterprise businesses, consumer businesses. We also had a gaming business. We have early on in terms of launching multiplayer online gaming as well. That gave a significant exposure.
Which
Around this
company was
time,
this? The
Sify,
multiplayer
was,
gaming? Sify itself. Yeah.
it used to
Okay.
call used to be called A3, which was
Okay.
one of the first multiplayer online gaming in India, so on and so forth. I think around 2007, 2008 is when this offshoots of digital marketing started happening. And I think around that time is when our marketing head just called me and said, hey, people are talking about blogs, people are talking about Google AdWords. It's all about something about market and bidding and keywords, right? We are all uh, right brain. We are used to the process of having a media agency interact with us, briefing and building an offline campaign. This is something new. You're the tech guy. Can you go figure it out? And sort of that was the sort of a paradigm shift in my career journey, because I started handling both product management and digital marketing in Sify, and set up the entire digital marketing as a function within Sify. So that was sort of the, let's say, a re-entry into marketing. And it happened in a, it's like what Steve Jobs says, connecting the dots, right? Because you've done sales, you were able to sort of be absorbed into product management because you've sold it. Now you can build it. Now you can build it. Can you also sell it and market it, right? So I think it was a full circle. That way, the cross-functional exposure, working across business teams, whether it is technology teams with product management, sales teams, or even marketing across different functions, was very helpful.
But at that point, it was largely Google AdWords, or was it Facebook? Social media was not really. I don't think Facebook's, the kind of marketing engine that they have today was in place.
I think early
Instagram was still trying to
2000,
figure out.
yeah, Instagram was not even there, if I remember. Early
Right.
2010, 11 is when sort of
When Instagram came in. Yeah.
getting started in terms of having a marketing platform. uh, Facebook ads had just started experimenting. It was predominantly Google ads that was there, and of course, blogs had come into play. Like today, if let's say podcast is the new fad, blogs used to be the new fad those days as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was very interesting to see that evolution as well.
And when it came to Google AdWords, were you managing campaigns for different aspects of Sify, or were you doing it for different departments? And what were the early experimentation processes like?
Oh yeah, it was across Sify, and obviously, started with the enterprise business and also did consumer business ads as well. Initially, it was sort of learning it on the job, right? Because you never had exposure to anything. You just have to go
Right.
figure
Yeah.
out yourself. And the good part is, that gave exposure to me in terms of you can even build products that people can try and buy online. You just put it out there. You don't have to have a huge, because those were the days where software as we know today, if you look at, take a step back, Google AdWords is a software. It's an ad software to help you put ads and
Yeah.
manage ads.
Right.
uh, the ability to put a product that can be self-served, right, was very interesting. And I realized, hey, if you can get your hands around it, you can learn. And that was an interesting learning journey. And around that time is when the shift to Ramco happened, because I was managing digital marketing across businesses. I had built a lot of products in Sify. Each of them have become categories by itself. We didn't realize those days used to be you have an in-house IT team, and you have to have a lot of business process led products that you build. So it could be around revenue recognition, it could be around order management, cash management, it could be around managing partners, so on and so forth, right? Anything around each of these workflows are now separate categories. The CRM that I built in Sify is a category by itself, and I didn't know that
Yeah.
if I can just capture the leads that comes from AdWords and have a workflow that can be assigned to the sellers, and you can track the progress of the leads to a business closure,
Right. Right.
can become a category by itself. So
Billion
that
dollar
was
companies.
the adverse.
HubSpot is doing just that, right?
Exactly, right. And HubSpot
Yeah.
also started around that time, if I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. But they
My
concentrated on the CRM bit. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's been interesting there.
No, and it's amazing how something that seems like the early genesis of all of these business processes, they seem like individually they're not very complex to begin with. But as you go deeper and deeper, for example, the connection of let's say the Google AdWords had to be connected to a landing page, and the landing page then had to be, you had to segregate the leads that came in, because as the product categories expanded, then you had to assign leads going into one particular module, and then you had to figure out, okay, where do you take it from here? Okay. But the point is that as you are literally seeing how to push the, ground a little further and extend the ability of whatever you were doing with digital marketing. So when you came into Ramco, uh, what was the state of digital marketing within the company there at the point when you joined?
Interesting. So I think Ramco, if you take a step back, Ramco was at a stage where they had launched their ERP, and along with likes of Oracle and SAP, and they sort of lost the race as well, where Oracle and SAP has taken over. And Ramco was trying to figure out, hey, what are the enterprise solutions that it can also build adjacent to an ERP solution. So there is a category for each one of them. There had almost also been a leadership change at Ramco, and the new leader who had come in, and my ex boss, my guru is Virender Agarwal, and he believed that the traditional ways of marketing, will not scale this organization. We were doing about 80% of our revenue from India. He had a vision to sort of flip it, to sort of drive 80% of revenue outside India and take brand Ramco global. And that's how he wanted someone like me to sort of drive digital marketing and build and scale Ramco from India to the world. Um, if I look back, actually we achieved that. When I left Ramco, we were actually doing more than 80% outside India. So that was the trigger. And I think when I joined, we were working with one of the agencies. Uh, we were probably losing a lot of money. I saw there could be a lot of efficiencies that could be brought in. So had to sort of take control of that, spend, build a team, digital marketing team, built multiple other teams, including marketing technology, product marketing, branding, etc. Sort of build the journey.
Just to interrupt, was there a sequential kind of thing? Do you remember what did you first tackle and then what are the things that you built over time? Because let's say if you wanted to switch from to a global thing, while it's easy to say that digital marketing can reach anyone because it's on the internet, what were the specific initiatives that you focused on to begin with? Was it blogs? Did you look at your website as being one of the core? What were the things that you looked at?
Yeah, so two things. I think the first 2 3 years was experimentation on seeding demand across global markets. So it was predominantly website, also in terms of search campaigns as well through Google Ads. And this was also sort of a go-to-market strategy. Do I hire let's say 5 sellers in Australia and drive demand through sellers, which is the traditional way of doing it, or can I sort of smartly do digital marketing from India with Australia as a market, uh, get capture the demand, drive demand, and then have 1 or 2 sellers take care of it. So it was also a go-to-market strategy we consciously did. So the focus initially was to go market by market venue, and every market is different. When you run campaigns for US, it's different. It's Southeast Asia is different. Middle East is different. Australia is different. And there is a learning that goes along the way in terms of what works in one country will not work in the other country. So that's been the linear journey in sort of building the foundation there.
So while you were looking at going market by market, I think this was the precursor to the SaaS kind of module because here it is not as if you are selling software that people can buy online and start using straight away. There's a process of training them, of getting them to understand because traditionally ERP was seen as very complex software which required a whole lot of installation. So, how did you tackle things with that? What was the first stage? Would you go in for demonstrations to begin with, and then you would take one module or so and then begin to implement it? What were the kind of challenges that you faced?
I think fundamentally was the first thing is about educating the market. I always believe marketing is all about educating, at least in the
Right.
B2B space.
Yeah.
Also, a little bit of persuasion. Let me also put that. But fundamentally, if you want to go to a customer, you'll have to say, hey, what's difference between on-premise and cloud? Do you need to have an army of whatever 100 database team engineers, infrastructure teams, servers, etc., vis-a-vis just buying it on the cloud, on the internet, as we say today. So that was not there earlier. The SaaS pre-SaaS landscape was all about, we own our IT, we manage our IT, we build our own applications, and which is pretty much I was seeing in Sify as well. Two, making the shift was also was very difficult. So we had to coexist for some time, where we say, hey, we provide on-prem, but here is a new world order, software as a service, right? And that's where it helps you to sort of focus on your business rather than managing the IT side of the applications that sort of propel your business, right? So that's where's the shift. And it also gave us an opportunity in terms of SaaS, to look at organizations like, let's say, Workday, for example, had carved its niche around HR at that point in time. And we looked at our entire ERP and said, hey, we are doing, we're sort of addressing needs across 9 or 10 different functions. So we carved out HR and payroll as a function. We were able to sort of launch a product. We carved out asset maintenance, and we were able to sort of launch a product. We carved out logistics and we were able to launch a product. And we realized with SaaS, you can go as niche as possible. And today we're talking about macro categories and micro categories within SaaS, right? But those days were the days where, even the macro category was a very collective decisions, and do we want to enter that product market, so on and so forth.
Okay, great. So you're listening to My First Job, the podcast. I'm speaking to Prakash Ramnath. He outlined how the stint at Sify proved to be the foundation of building so many of the products that you see today. While they were initially just trying to figure out various aspects of the workflow, all of these have become individual companies. They've all become billion-dollar companies. And there are people who have specialized in just one aspect of the workflow, and he's seen all that evolve over time. So when he came into Ramco Systems, it was before the SaaS revolution really happened, and it was moving something customers from a on-premise to the cloud infrastructure, which is, when you look at it, all these in retrospect are stages that are perfectly apparent. But when you're going through it, it becomes pretty difficult to sort of sketch out what is the change happening in the market today. When you look back on it, it all seems perfectly rational, it all seems perfectly logical. But when it's happening, there is always an element of ferment, an element of uncertainty, and an element of suspicion, because people don't easily take to change. In the final segment, I will be talking to Prakash about the difference between B2B marketing versus B2C marketing, because I think it's important to emphasize what are the changes that happen and why a company is not essentially an individual, even though it is a collection of individuals. So, Prakash, I think B2B marketing, what have you found are the major changes?
So before jumping into that, funnily enough, I was reminded at one of those ads, that I remember seeing it. This was during my college days, and we used to be, passionate about or inspired by ads that are featured at Cannes Ad Film Festival,
Right.
and our librarian used to have a
Yeah.
video cassette of whatever, and we used to wait
All
for it
the ads. Yeah.
used to come. There was an interesting ad which actually won an award, and the ad starts like this: a family of four, two kids, husband and wife, get into a car, and there is a song that starts playing in English. And the song is full of expletives with F words, and the family starts singing as well along with it. And I'm just wondering what the heck is happening. And then the camera sort of zooms back, and then we realize it's a German ad, uh, advocating, learn English the proper way, right? And that blew me apart. I was like, oh my god, an English learning service or whatever academy can do an ad like this,
Yeah.
right? So, reflecting back to your question, I think while we are talking about difference between B2B and B2C, uh, if you look at creativity, it transcends barriers. While it's nice to say B2B is more rational, B2C is more emotional. I think, like you mentioned, B2B is also about a set of decision makers, people like you and me. We are doing what we are doing and what we think as is the best for the organization. So we are making an investment, uh, right? So coming back to your question, yes, there is a difference. It's B2C can be more impulsive, instinctive. Today, all of us see that when we add something to a shopping cart and impulsively add one more that we didn't intend to purchase. B2C can also be more emotional, but I think B2B essentially is all about, how can you make their professional lives better. Essentially boils down to that. Uh, in my experience, at least the landscape that I am familiar with, I'm going to reflect on the B2B enterprise software or the B2B SaaS sort of space. Um, the way it works is you always have someone called a customer champion, which means, let's say I am heading marketing for an organization, and I want to sort of buy a marketing software so that I can sort of help my team do their jobs better. And today we are living in an age where every marketing software screams of AI, right? And you can
Right.
do this, you can do that. Your teams can sort of take a campaign live in 30 seconds, what used to take so on and so forth. Um, so I need to then take a step back and say, hey, does it really do that? Right. So the process starts with me, and I'm the customer champion. uh, and I start looking at dabbling with different solutions, right? And of course, there is an objective on trying to solve a problem. If I don't have a problem, I won't go looking for a solution. Unlike a B2C, you may not have a problem at all, right? You are just wanting to have that to satisfy your emotional quotient here. I think the next step that happens is I'm convinced that a specific solution is good for the team, and of course, it requires an investment. I'm also trying to see, hey, what's the best way I can onboard my team really faster without expensive trainings, etc., etc. So I look and solve for user experience by default today, which was not used to be earlier days, right? And it's not just me taking a decision, it's also me working with our finance team or working with our IT team in trying to convince them collectively, saying, hey, this is good for the organization, this is good for the marketing team. So as a customer champion, I also go and talk to somebody who holds the budgets, in this case, let's say the finance, somebody who has influence on the decision, which is, how you're going to implement the software, how is it going to sit with the existing software that you have, so on and so forth, which is the IT. So that's essentially what happens in not just my organization, but any organization that we sell software. So
Just
uh,
one little nuance here, Prakash. In this case, you have very clearly defined who the customer champion is. But
yeah,
to a company marketing to you, let's say you're going out there into a company which is, let's take your current company, you're Pando, and you're looking at a company which is
let's,
into logistics,
yeah,
and then saying, okay, why would they want to go into it? So let's assume a case where there's a company which is into, let's say, surface transport. And Pando is saying that our solution is going to work for you. So that would be different, I assume, for a company which is, I don't know, is it a change in terms of the revenue? Is it that the challenges as the company grows bigger are different? What are the things that you emphasize when it comes down to selling to that company? Because when you start the process, you're not sure about who the champion is, who's the person who's against this. Some of the people who want change within an organization, some people who don't. But you still have to deal with them as a collective. So, how do
yeah.
you
So
navigate those processes?
no, absolutely. I think one of the first things that you need to solve for before even getting into uh, the execution of your marketing strategy is be clear about which companies are best fit customers for you,
Okay.
and who are the customer champions and personas. Without that, you're shooting in the dark, right? So uh, Pando is in logistics tech, right? And therefore, we focus on brands which are, let's say, manufacturers and shippers, and help them to sort of have a transportation management software, whether they are procuring, let's say, raw materials from their suppliers to their manufacturing unit, or they are finished goods and they want to send it across their distribution channels to reach out to you and me. So essentially, when we, whether it is we order on online or we pick up from a retail store, we don't care whether it came on a truck or a ship or a plane, but that part is what is managed through our software. So in our case, for example, we have very clear definition in terms of which industries that we cater to, and we really go down in depth in terms of which accounts will that mean or which companies will that mean. So we cater to, let's say, consumer products, we cater to, let's say, automotive, we cater to retail, of a certain size and scale, which require there is complexity and therefore require a software like us to address. So that's what we call the best fit customers. The second stage that we do in terms of planning is in terms of identifying who are the customer champions in these accounts, who owns the KPIs, where we can deliver value. So typically, logistics in a company is seen as a cost center, except when pandemic happened, logistics became sort of prime time sexy, right? And everybody started talking about how logistics impacts you and me, etc. So I think that shift also happened during that time. So in our case, somebody who heads logistics is a customer champion. To take a step back to answer your question, I think every marketer should be very clear on who their customer champion is, who's their brand persona that they want to sort of target. Without that, anything that you do will not be effective.
Okay. Okay. So, is there a, or is account-based marketing a more focused thing of what B2B marketing is? Would you say, is there a difference that you see, or is it essentially that B2B marketing now, especially when you're looking at selling to large customers, is about looking at each of them as an account within a particular category and then saying, let me go for companies in this category? Would you say that that is one of the ways in which B2B has sharpened its focus?
Yeah, so fundamentally, if you take a step back and look at how the marketscape has evolved as well, Venu, if you look at India as a market, for example, we had Zoho or Freshworks, erstwhile Freshdesk, started with the B2B SaaS, and of course, a host of other businesses also followed them on what is called the small and mid-market businesses. So that's still ABM or account-based marketing, but it's a breadth marketing, which means any business, any small businesses that will require software to manage, could be your office applications, could be your CRM, could be any of the applications, can go for it. I have been part of the organizations, whether it is Ramco, Pando, or even Sify. We were selling to large enterprises. In
Okay.
Sify, it was more, enterprise applications on the infrastructure side, like cloud, voice, etc. In Ramco, it was completely ERP and large enterprises. So here, it's more about depth. You're right from that perspective. So you have specific set of accounts. So you may not have, let's say, SMB focused business may say I have a market potential of 100,000 accounts to go after. Whereas an enterprise ABM, which is more depth, you may just say I have about 5,000 accounts to go after, and that's my TAM. That's my total addressable market. Now, how do you sort of orchestrate your campaigns for a finite time is different from how do you do that with the breadth marketing. And that's essentially the difference between the breadth and the depth. And here you also have a opportunity to sort of land with something, and they see value in that, they appreciate it, and you can expand. So companies like Microsoft, for example, have built on that land and expand model. They may land with an Office 365 applications, and pandemic happened, and everybody started embracing Teams, and now comes with whole host of applications that you're using from Microsoft. So that's essentially how it is.
Okay, great. So, which brings me to what people watching the show would be most interested in, which is anyone who's entering the profession today, what are the salary levels? What are the prospects? Where should they begin? What kind of qualifications are required?
Absolutely. I think two-part answer to this question, and uh, I can reflect on my own journey. I'm sure today you have avenues like this where you can sort of understand what it entails in each part of the journey. So identify what you're passionate about. I think my passion was about creating something from scratch, and that gave me excitement. And I thought advertising or marketing was an avenue to sort of pursue from that perspective. Otherwise, I could have even gone into filmmaking or even a chef, whatever gives me ability to create. Um, and I think learn more about it. Like avenues like this will be helpful to shape that career there. Uh, I think the first 3 to 5 years, Venu, is all about becoming an expert in whatever function you want to start within that particular domain. Um, I think that sort of helps build the foundation. So being completely hands-on in early days really helps in any function that you do. In marketing, I would definitely want to sort of advocate primarily because I saw the benefit of it. Uh, you can definitely start from sales. It'll really help. While selling looks very hard at the outset, it's also fun. All of us do selling. When my kid asks for the 10 minutes extra TV time, no, that's selling, and he's able to persuade me to give that. And I think from that perspective, selling sort of lays the right foundation for you to grow as a marketer. Um, in terms of salaries, I'm not sure how it is shaped up over the years, but essentially, I have deep respect for my peers on the B2C, and I think um B2C marketers are definitely paid much higher than B2B marketers as well, honestly. And there's a lot of work that happens there, and huge brands are being built. Uh, on the other hand, the B2B marketers have the fun ride of influencing large deal purchases, which doesn't happen in B2C. It's going to be volume game with B2C and a more large value game with B2B, and those are the differences. And it absolutely boils to each one of you on which path you want to take.
It's interesting that you make that point because, in a sense, you're saying that through the B2C marketer, your customers remain a persona. You may never know who that individual customer is. But
Absolutely.
in B2B, you actually have relationships. You know who the people you're selling you are
I
to.
talk to customers
And
all the time, and it really helps.
and you're solving a problem that they're telling you if you'll help solve. Whereas how do you sell a soap? It has to be something which is more ephemeral, because all of those sales are how people receive that message is very different from a rational. So what do you say? I hate using this particular characterization, but rational versus emotional, because I think even in B2B selling, there is a very clear sense that while rational decisions are made in terms of pricing, you still want to go with a company that you believe has a kind of mindset fit with how you think about the problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I could be a little, uh, specific in my career journey as well. When I started off in Ramco and trying to set up the digital marketing practice, I ended up building a version of CRM in house. And it was very difficult for me to sort of do the mark tech part of it, because you have a product and you keep sort of building capabilities onto it and do the day job, which you need to sort of drive pipeline revenue growth, so on and so forth. uh, right? And that's when I said, hey, we need to sort of probably buy a CRM rather than build it. And I think HubSpot is a great example from that perspective. I think they've built a great company. I think what really drew me to them is their vision of making marketers' life simple, easier, uh, and building a platform that sort of connects every single piece in marketing. I think the foundation that they laid was very helpful. So obviously, when I came to Pando, I also wanted to sort of build the whether it is marketing, whether it is sales, whether it is even customer success, have a single platform so sort of connects all three of them. So you're absolutely right. You're drawn to companies that share a similar vision as yours, and therefore it is equally emotional in some sense. I can reflect from my own experience as well.
Okay. So, in conclusion, Prakash, as you look back, uh, are there some things that you wish at points? Do you think that you made a very clear differentiation between, let's say, B2C marketers and B2B? Because maybe even in terms of your mindset, who do you like marketing to? Are you okay with products which, in the normal course of day to day things, is not as exciting or, but when you look at it, Nike is a shoe. When you get down to it, the product itself, it's all the additional layers of complexity and, intrigue that have been built in, which attract customers. And to a large extent, I think Intel, though it was seen as one of the earliest examples of that crossover between B2B and B2C, because while their markets were essentially in the B2B segment, they also looked at ensuring that they got customers to ask for Intel. So that was one of those things which sort of bridges that gap between B2B and B2C.
I think it's
So,
also, sorry, just to add to that, Venu, I think it's also over the years. I think while B2C brands have grown, I think I also see B2B brands have also grown at least in the last 5 to 10 years. 10 years back or 15 years back, if anyone had told you and me that Microsoft will be a huge technology brand with whatever
yeah,
$1 trillion valuations, we're like, what? And it was a different Microsoft then. Of course, Satya came and
yeah,
changed it, right?
right.
And that's not the sole one. I think we are in an age where the difference between a B2C brand and B2B brands are dying. You see any of those Microsoft ads positioning their products, or HubSpot ads, or any of those technology brands, they're as good as storytelling in a B2C brand.
Yeah.
That's mirrors that. So I think those lines are blurring. We're living in a very interesting time. I wouldn't be surprised if the sort of table shifts more towards B2B brands as we venture into it. Time will tell.
Great. So, in conclusion, one snappy one liner about B2B versus B2C, or how you see marketing from your perspective of over 20 years. Prakash.
Interesting. B2B is more like you mentioned, people, relationship, and the impact that you can deliver and you can see it for yourself. Um, while I've done a little bit of B2C in Sify, you still feel distant. You feel disconnected. You don't know whatever you've done has actually impacted somebody's lives that was supposed to do. So that's how I perceive it. Could be personal to me.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Prakash. It's been wonderful talking to you, and uh, quite an interesting perspective on how the differences between B2B, B2C, and your own journey and how it has been defined. Thank you very much for coming on the My First Job podcast. And here's wishing you loads of success in future as well.
Thank you so much, Venu, for having me. Really enjoyed our conversations. I hope there is something or the other that will help your audience. Thank you.
Absolutely. That was Prakash Ramnath, who's currently marketing head at Pando, which is into IT logistics. We'll continue with other career journeys and have a new guest each week and explore a new career journey. Until then, share, subscribe, like, and spread the word.